After this, the Lord appointed 70 others, and sent them on ahead of him in pairs to every town and place where he himself intended to go. He said to them, "The harvest is plentiful, and the laborers are few. Therefore ask the Lord of the harvest to send out the laborers into his harvest. Go on your way. See, I am sending you out like lambs in the midst of wolves. Carry no purse, no bag, no sandals, and greet no one on the road. Whatever house you enter, first say, 'Peace to this house.' And if there's anyone in there who shares in your peace will rest on that person. But if not, it will return to you. Remain in the same house, eating and drinking whatever they provide, for the laborer deserves to be paid. Do not move about from house to house. Whenever you enter a town and its people welcome you, eat what is set before you. Cure the sick who are there, and say to them, 'The kingdom of God has come near to you.' But whenever you enter a town and they do not welcome you, go out into the streets and say, 'Even the dust of your town that clings to our feet, we wipe off in protest against you. Yet know this, the kingdom of God has come near. Whoever listens to you listens to me, and whoever rejects you rejects me, and whoever rejects me rejects the one who sent me." The 70 returned with joy, saying, "Lord, in your name even the demons submit to us." He said to them, "I watched Satan fall from heaven like a flash of lightning. See, I have given you authority to tread on snakes and scorpions and all over the power of the enemy, and nothing will hurt you. Nevertheless, do not rejoice at this, that the spirits submit to you, but rejoice that your names are written in heaven." When we moved to Utah, we lived in a parsonage. That's a whole story. A parsonage that a church provides. We lived at 4th East and Center Street. Second house on the north-hand side of the street. We were between Burt Page and Peregrine Sessions. They informed me of proper attitudes and behavior in Bountiful, and they knew best, for their parents and grandparents had founded Bountiful, and they had lived here since the beginning of Bountiful, and they wanted me to know that I was an outsider. And in so many ways, they made me feel like that for a number of years. We were here about 6 months when we returned home one day and found on our porch an empty case of Pabst Blue Ribbon, straight from Indiana. It was my brother-in-law, out of work, fresh off his 2nd, 3rd, or 4th divorce, all from the same woman. He arrived in his worn-out F-150 Ford that he promptly began to dismantle in our garage. Needed to be, as we called it down home, overhauled. He occupied our basement. Now this was a basement. It wasn't a lower level. It was a basement. He was a master electrician, but coming from Indiana and after building the power plants in Florida and Michigan and on the East Coast, he met the powers that be in Utah, in the Union. And they didn't like long hair and hippie clothes. And so they kept him out of the Union for several months until he finally learned to play the game. He got smart. In certain issues in Utah, you just play the game. He finally got a proper haircut, nice and short like most of ours. Mine's short because I don't have any left to cut. And he put on a white shirt and he went, and a little tie that he loosened at the collar, and he went down, and after about almost a year, he got into the Union. All because he got a haircut and put on a white shirt. You have to play the game in Utah. While he was on part-time, he learned to ski, smoke pot, drink beer, dance in Park City, and drive my Alfa Romeo, which he eventually wrecked. When he worked, he would leave early and arrive home late. Now down in that basement, he had a little storage area. It was a 50s basement, a little bookshelf here and walnut dark paneling there like my home is now that was built in the 60s. And so the next summer, after learning to ski and finding girls to date in Bountiful and Salt Lake and Park City and Price, he began to arrive home with various sizes of purchases. Little bags. He'd see him sneaking them down the steps and come up later and have a word to say. Day after day, he brought things into our basement, being rather private about it all. He bought a large backpack. And then he bought a larger backpack that had an aluminum frame. And I found out later that the backpack had emergency supplies, clothing, sleeping bag, a tent, cooking supplies. This all added up to a lot of weight when you carried it. And backpackers know that for a trip you want to carry a fourth of your weight or less when you go backpacking. He ended up with 60 pounds, which was traveling light. Each kind of backpack has a different purpose. I suspect that Melanie has one for her books at school, and some of you carry whatever you do. It's just a nice thing to throw over your shoulder and go off to school. We weren't that smart when I was a kid. We carried them down here, or we didn't take books home at all. We decided not to study, or you carried them in a briefcase. My brother-in-law Tom learned there are many accoutrements to purchase. It never ends. There's always more gear to try and to purchase. There are fancy coffee-making machines so that you can have a brew in the wilderness that's just like a cup at home. There's little odd-shaped gizmos that combine knife and compass and screwdriver and bottle opener and altimeters and whistles and mirrors and all kinds of things. There's even unpronounceable materials that will lighten your weight by a few ounces when you go backpacking. Tom kept Kirkham's and REI busy, eventually joining REI because he knew there's always more stuff to buy, more accoutrements. Finally, he announced his destination. He was going to hike to Kings Peak. Well, I suddenly informed him how stupid he was. That's 14,200 or whatever. Why would you want to do that, you know? Because it's there. So, He wanted the highest high in Utah. So he bought him a little bottle of Chivas Regal that he could have on top of that mountain. He walked, he practiced, he bought about 3 or 4 pair of hiking boots. In those days we had just changed from leather to